Hello there, everybody, and welcome to Telechron Time. My name is Roy, and I'm going to be your host, talking about a controversial topic, and that's going to be the original finishes on Telechron, Revere, General Electric, or basically any type of vintage or antique clock that you might own. Now, the reason why I'm doing this video is because personally, I like to work with original finishes. I clean them up, I polish them out, I try to make the clocks look a lot better than what they looked like before I even got them. Okay, but then I still get the critics and naysayers that say, oh, well, you did this, you did that, so now the clock isn't original anymore. So let's talk about what is original and what's not original. Really, the only way you could find out if a clock is original is to go back in time to 1940 or 45, buy a clock, open it up, put it on your table and look at it, because that's original. One of the problems that we have is the advertisements that both Telechron and Revere used, okay, really didn't help much. So when you take a look at this particular ad, yeah, you got a pretty good idea of what the clock looks like, but you don't know what the coloring is, you don't know the details, you don't know any of the nuances on that. And the same thing with Telechron when they did their ads. Their pictures were very small. Again, they were done in black and white, very little detail shown. And down here I circled one of the clocks. This is the Olympic down here in the corner, and I do have that particular clock case here. So let's say that you bought this clock off of the internet, you got it home. Obviously I did remove the internal parts of it, but you go ahead and you look at it, you see scratches up here, there's a lot of embedded dirt, probably some old waxes. Take a look at the side, it's the same thing, a lot of scratches, indents, damage, you know, on the wood there. You flip it over, okay, I could see that there's some nicotine staining on here, possibly some more smoke damage, but you can see it's not a perfect clock. Now, the reason why I'm showing you this is because these particular faults in the clock were not original, okay, to the clock when it was brand new. So if I'm able to eliminate those faults on there without having to remove the finish, what's wrong with that? In my opinion, I'm still retaining the actual original finish of the clock because I am not removing it. Now, there's a couple other reasons why you want to avoid removing finishes on these clocks. One of them is what's called consistency, or Telechron consistency. And look at this like a McDonald's hamburger. If you were to buy this clock brand spanking new in Erie, Pennsylvania, it would look identical to the clock being sold in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and identical to the one being sold in Sacramento, California. As a matter of fact, if you took 10 of these clocks brand new and set them up side by side, okay, other than some small nuances, okay, in the graining, these clocks would all look the same. Now, the reason why they look the same was because Telechron and Revere, in the wood on these veneers, okay, they actually used fillers and dyes. And those fillers and dyes would actually hide a lot of the small flaws in the wood, okay, or blemishes in the wood, such as knots and stuff like that, okay, and it would actually make each clock consistent from clock to clock to clock. So when you strip this clock, if you were to strip it, you would be taking those fillers and dyes off, exposing nothing but the bare veneer underneath it. Here is an example of a clock that I did for a young collector by the name of Connor just a few months ago. As you can see, the finish on this clock was totally deteriorated and needed to be replaced, and this is what the finished product looked like. Beautiful. But the issue here is that if you strip 10 clocks like this down, every one of them would be completely different. Now go ahead and compare Connor's clock with another clock with the original finish still on it. Despite Connor's clock coming out absolutely gorgeous, it did lose that consistency and the originality that the clock once had. This R913 was sent in to me by a client. Not only did the clock not run, but the finish was totally. Now you might be saying, Roy, that clock doesn't look all that bad. Take a closer look, because you see those dark areas? That's what was remaining of the original finish. All of the light areas, that's where the finish had completely come off. So this is what that R913 looked like, fully stripped and sanded. And I started to put a hand rub finish on it. You can see the difference right there. On the left, I use only oil. There's no stains or anything else applied to the clock. So I hand rubbed this clock over a period of 4 days, and this was the end result. This turned out to be a beautiful clock, and the owner was very happy with it. It just appalls me how many sellers that I see on the internet selling so-called restored clocks, and their description always reads, the finish was stripped off. I stripped the finish off on this one. Strip, 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 strip. And my question is Why are they doing this? Okay, why? Because only a very, very small percentage of clocks that I work on actually need to be stripped down. So I would never consider stripping a clock like this because I don't think there's enough damage on here to warrant it. I think this is a piece that I could really clean up nice and bring back to life again. You know, and I look at these clocks like a work of art. Take, for example, like the Mona Lisa. Let's say the Mona Lisa had some flaws or defects in the paintwork or something like that. Obviously, what you could do is you could remove all of that original paint, bring it back down to the original canvas and start all over again. But there's always a good possibility you're going to end up with something that looks like this. Okay? But even if you were the world's best artist, okay, I mean the absolute best, and you sat down and you repainted the Mona Lisa back on that original canvas, in the end, it's a reproduction. It's not original anymore. All of that has been gone. Now, when you buy a clock off of the internet, what you're basically buying is a clock that's rated anywhere from poor to fair condition, and this particular clock is a perfect example of that. Actually, this is better than a lot that I've seen. Okay, so you pay X amount of dollars for that clock, which is probably a lower value, but if you put the work into it and you bring more life back to it by eliminating a lot of the blemishes and flaws on it, you're actually increasing the value of that clock because you're not actually removing the original finish on it, just improving it. Now, in the case of Connor's clock, where the finish was totally ruined on there, the value of that clock was very, very low, so the only place it could go is up. Okay, so by doing a correct finish on that, making a beautiful finish, actually raised the value of Connor's clock quite considerably. But so now you have two different clocks. You have a beautifully refinished clock and you have a beautiful clock in an original finish. So which one is worth more? Well, you know, it's hard to say. It just depends on who you are. If you're an avid collector or somebody who likes originality and detail, obviously you're going to go for the original finish. But if you're just a casual buyer looking for a beautiful clock, then, and you're not concerned about value or originality, you just want a really nice looking clock that works well, then obviously a stripped down clock like Connor's clock would be just the clock for you. So to conclude this video, I'm going to go ahead and give you a tip on how you could help maintain your finish to keep it from drying out, okay, from getting dirty or getting buildups. And a lot of it's going to have to be in the cleaner that you're using. And the cleaners that I recommend are what's called a penetrating oil. They're citrus, they're usually orange or lemon. And when I'm talking about stuff like that, I'm not talking about Lemon Pledge or any of those cheap products that you get at the grocery store. I'm talking about a product like this. This is Formby's lemon oil treatment. I've been using this for quite a while. I still have about half a bottle left. Unfortunately, I believe Minwax bought Formby's out, so this particular oil has been discontinued. But this is what you want because this is the type of oil that not only cleans the wood, not only does it dust it, but it penetrates into the finish, moisturizes it, and keeps it from cracking, peeling, okay, all of that stuff that wood does as it ages. Now, I'm not 100% sure where I'm going to go when this bottle is empty. I do know Howard's makes a very good product, and they do have a lemon oil. I think you could get it on Amazon. I believe the price of it was $9. I haven't tried it. I don't know if it's any good. So, I mean, if any of you want to go ahead and order it, leave your remarks in the messages. I'd be real curious to know, and I'm sure other people would too. So that's going to conclude my take on originality and why I do things the way I do. Again, like I said, this is controversial. You know, your opinions and your ideas are always welcome. Keep them clean, okay? I don't delete anything, so even if you say, Roy, your video sucked, I don't like what you do, blah, 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 I won't delete it. But if you get vulgar or anything like that, yes, that's going to disappear real quick. So again, I want to thank you for stopping in. Everybody take care, and I'll see you again on the next video. Bye-bye.